Awakening to the irritating sound of your iPhone's alarm, you groggily reach out to shut it off. Checking the updates from the world, your eyes fall upon an email notification from Amazon indicating the delivery of your package. It's the Johnson & Johnson medication you had ordered just yesterday, a marvel of rapid shipping. Glancing across your room, you notice the time to be 8 a.m. and the clock ticking towards your 9 a.m. office shift. Hastening, you fire up your Microsoft computer to respond to pending work emails before getting ready. With no time for home-cooked breakfast, you decide to pick something from McDonald's en route to your office. What if I informed you that BlackRock, a single company, wields profound influence over every other corporation you've interacted with within the first hour of your morning? Even though BlackRock is known as a world-controlling giant, the reality is quite less thrilling. Let's shift our discussion to a related issue: data. When we navigate the internet, companies amass an immense data cache about us. This information is then sold to data brokers, who auction it off to the highest bidder, or inadvertently let it slip in data breaches. The Identity Theft Resource Center shows an alarming 68% rise in data breaches in 2021 compared to 2020. A friend of mine was recently alerted via email about a data breach from an unknown company, which was followed by personalized email advertisements from dubious firms. This is how scammers can lay their hands on your personal information, including phone number, name, and even address. Fortunately, you can force these data brokers to erase your information. However, the manual process could take an eternity. Now back to our narrative. BlackRock is a management firm that holds an array of shares in some of the world's biggest corporations. With an astounding $10 trillion assets worldwide, an amount that equals half of the total GDP of the United States, isolated to a single organization, it's hard not to regard such a mighty entity as utterly reprehensible. However, the fact is that BlackRock doesn't possess these corporations, or even own a share of these corporations. The shares belong to their clientele. BlackRock simply directs them. It's not that BlackRock exerts no authority over these corporations. They definitely do, given the extraordinary bulk of their equity. They potentially hold the influence over the corporation's fate, effectively maintaining their investment. Whilst BlackRock may not be inherently malevolent as some may perceive, there's an undeniable shady side to them: their double standards. BlackRock, initiated 34 years ago by Larry Fink, blossomed from a meager $5 million to a substantial $8 billion in a span of 5 years, principally through managing substantial sums brought in by major organizations such as pension funds, university endowments, and colossal investments made by the ultra-wealthy individuals. Today, Fink is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and the World Economic Forum, grabbing the interest of business moguls and political elites the world over. His corporation is on the brink of accumulating so much power that it could virtually rule the world. The financial crisis of 2008 proved advantageous for BlackRock, the global investment giant. With an unchallenged contract in hand, it took over numerous beleaguered banks, further consolidating the power of its already affluent executive, Larry Fink, and amplifying his influence over the U.S. government. A similar sequence unfolded amidst the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. BlackRock's intervention was solicited to shield the Federal Reserve from economic catastrophe, underpinning its upward trajectory. In the tumultuous summer of 2020, following the tragic death of George Floyd, a statement from BlackRock suggested a commitment to social causes, encouraging companies to go far beyond mere profit-making. They introduced an environmental, social, and governance (ESG) score for companies, rewarding those taking strides towards diversification in leadership, sustainable operations, and environmentally friendly practices. BlackRock popularized ESG investment in 2020, a scheme already in existence since 2004. The approach did pay off. Prior to their declaration, ESGs were scarcely discussed in corporate earnings calls, and by May 2021, this number skyrocketed to approximately 20%. This surge positioned ESG as the quickest growing segment in the industry of asset management, propelled by increasing public concern about the environmental and social implications of corporate activities. An eco-conscious business landscape would be ideal, but the reality is starkly different. BlackRock's push for ESG led to a trend of greenwashing, where many firms misrepresented their environmental, diversity, and social responsibility efforts. It exposed the two-faced nature of BlackRock, whose strident advocacy for ESG contrasts with its unmoving position as the principal investor in fossil fuels and wartime profiteering, coupled with cordial ties to human rights abusers. BlackRock isn't the only culprit. Vanguard, the world's second-largest investment firm, is another example of the contradiction between promoting ESG whilst remaining invested in oil and gas entities, and those noted for human rights violations. This duplicity is characteristic of BlackRock's moves so far, often appearing to step towards progress publicly while remaining entrenched in their controversial investments behind closed doors. The role of investments, even those aimed at societal benefits, should not be underestimated, especially in sectors such as climate change. Investment giant BlackRock has emphasized that there is a risk associated with investing in companies that do not prioritize policies to tackle climate change. In 2021, BlackRock showed initiative by reorganizing the board of ExxonMobil, which once was responsible for 2% of global emissions, and installing new executives who were committed to addressing climate change. While this is undeniably a productive measure, it raises questions due to BlackRock's status as the largest global investor in fossil fuels, suggesting that this may be more of a symbolic gesture than a sincere attempt to create impactful change. The issues persist when it comes to gun violence in America, where BlackRock has publicly criticized it and has called on gun producers to protect American citizens. However, BlackRock is the leading investor in gun manufacturers, having 16% stake in Sturm Ruger and Company and 15% in American Outdoor Brands Corporation. Despite BlackRock's claims of encouraging these companies to enhance safety measures, it is unclear if there have been any genuine changes in policy. Internationally, BlackRock's inconsistencies continue. Their U.S. Aerospace and Defense Fund invests billions in leading arms manufacturers like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and General Dynamics. These companies secure hefty contracts from the Pentagon, often utilizing taxpayer money to instigate violence and war worldwide. Furthermore, BlackRock has been accused of breaching its dedication to human rights due to its relationships with authoritarian governments. BlackRock has gained unprecedented access to China's mutual fund, an achievement no other global asset management company has managed, raising speculation over the company's interactions with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Ultimately, despite its focus on ESG investing, there appears to be a disconnect in BlackRock's actions. For many years, the UK pensions managed by BlackRock have contributed a significant amount of funds, amounting to $630 billion, to some of the largest companies in Russia. This persisted even after Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, which was a prelude to the year-long war in Ukraine. Although BlackRock reevaluated some of its Russian investments following these events, it quickly resumed its position as one of Russia's major shareholders a year later. Despite evident signs of forthcoming aggression from Russian President Vladimir Putin, it wasn't until the outbreak of war that BlackRock, like many Western companies, chose to withdraw their investments. This begs the question, how has one corporation acquired such a prominent level of global influence? BlackRock's success traces back to its pioneering use of exchange-traded funds, ETFs, a lucrative business model based on diversified investments that mitigates risks for investors. Instead of purchasing shares in individual companies, investors buy into a fund that purchases an array of stocks, commodities, and other securities. This successful model is largely attributable to the 1998 creation of Aladdin, a portfolio management software that predicts the potential outcomes of each investment and gathers personal data from anyone who has ever given money to BlackRock, knowingly or unknowingly, allowing for predictive analysis of investment failures. BlackRock's technological innovation has propelled it to the forefront of ETF investing, a sector that continues to grow in popularity. Indeed, the global value of ETF assets is set to skyrocket to $225 trillion by 2025, representing grand opportunities for BlackRock. The corporation's current influence is already conspicuous. BlackRock currently manages assets equivalent to 10% of the global economy, and global conglomerates such as Fox, Comcast, and Disney often consult BlackRock before making significant business decisions, given that BlackRock holds substantial shares in their companies. Major global firms, including BlackRock and Vanguard, are the largest investors in global giants like Google, Facebook, and Amazon. Such large-scale ownership creates an anti-competitive environment, as seen in the airline ticket prices, where BlackRock and Vanguard are among the 5 largest shareholders of the 3 biggest airline operators, thus reducing motivation to compete via lowering prices. This concentration of ownership restricts consumer choice, and as a result, inflates prices. BlackRock and Vanguard are nearing a milestone of managing $20 trillion in assets, a target set for less than a decade from now. Such development would cause a seismic shift in the asset management industry, further amplifying the existing dominance and ownership consolidation of the world's leading corporations and driving prices sky high. A core issue with this business structure is that as the funds managed by BlackRock increase, the fees for investors decrease, which creates a cycle. The best investment methods today may pave the way for potential financial and social catastrophe later. Most individuals, unfortunately, can't afford the long-term perspective, focusing instead on short-term gains, which is the exact environment in which BlackRock flourishes. It appeals to the public as a responsible company, putting emphasis on environmentalism, diversity, and human rights, which is a stark contrast to its actual practices. Many of BlackRock's investors, often merely part of a pension scheme or endowment the company oversees, are unaware of their investor status. Alternative, smaller funds are present that support ESG investing without any conflict of interest. Additionally, managing our shares independently can aid in sidestepping moral dilemmas like those associated with large corporations such as BlackRock. Yet most turn to these large formations due to their ease and accessibility. Public scrutiny of massive corporations has heightened over time. Amidst this, BlackRock has striven to highlight its vision for a better world. However, the dichotomy between BlackRock's public face versus actual practices still prevails. As consumers and investors, it remains our duty to be informed about the actual circumstances, rather than blindly believing in the corporate messaging. BlackRock is wagering on you to choose the simpler path, a tactic which has propelled them this far.